Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. We have a different crew tonight. It's okay. Everybody is very capable because this is a sport that they all know a lot about. With that said, I want to let everybody know what we'll be talking about tonight before I go with the crew and some company information. We'll talk about the Michigan Wolverines and the amount of people, players that they have at the combine. We're going to talk about Richard Sherman, and we're going to, as well as good or bad, we're going to talk about quarterbacks not throwing at the combine. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and now Drake May, and Sean McDermott, among other things. So I hope you can stay from start to finish. So I just want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Chat room's one way to do it, or send your topic ideas. South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And we'll get to some other business in a little while. With that said, introducing my crew, Candy Ebling, fresh off her Chicks and Salsa show. How did that go, Candy?
It was very good, very good. Enjoyed it. Got to go check it out. Go check Chicks and Salsa. Thanks for having me, though, Scott.
You're very welcome, Candy. And, of course, Jeremy Ballrick. This is not the country club, but I got news for you. Jeremy Ballrick, to me, enjoys being able to handle the meat grinder because he does a lot of good grinding out facts. Good stuff, Jeremy. Welcome back, pal. I'll stay Inside the Pigskin.
Happy to be back. I mean, granted, I'm replacing the guys I like talking to the most, but I'm okay.
That's all right. Everybody needs a little time off. My goal is to make sure that we have the show goes on and we provide ourselves.
And look at that.
People talent. All right. Good stuff, Daniel.
What's good? Smoking JB.
And George Eichhorn. Well, we didn't do baseball last night, so that left an opening for football, and an early happy birthday to George Eichhorn on Thursday night. He will be, I don't know, because of sleep here on February 29th. The only thing I do know is Bill Knapp's new, and that's why they went.
I put him out of business, Scott. Oh, my God. Bill Knapp's, yeah. Well, thank you very much for the birthday greeting. I'm going to be, I'll be 17, so I'll share that with your audience. 17.
Yeah,
I'm still not legal. I'm still not legal.
Yeah, 17. Okay, that would have been, was 17% off from Bill Knapp's now. He took higher discounts. He's a shrewd operator. And last but not least, Travis Sherlock Holmes been doing a really good job in the Sports Exchange. We got him where he belongs on this show. Welcome back, Travis.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, well, let's get to it. Michigan has broken an NFL Combine record by having 18 players invited us. Will the Lions draft one of these players, Travis Holmes?
Sure. It sounds right. I mean, obviously with the Hutchinson pick, you kind of have to, believe that anyone from the region, if you have someone, from that area, that the Lions would love to have them, especially if it's at the right deal. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to, if they're going to get the right player at the right price. And I know there's 18 different prospects, so the likelihood is one of these 18, that's more than 50% of the league. Yeah, you probably have a good odds that they're going to get one of these players, sure.
What about you, Candy?
My question is, it more Detroit Lions that are going to get combine people, or is Jim Harbaugh going to take back some of his Michigan Wolverines? And yes, they have 18 in the combine. Dating back to 2003, they had 14 back in 2017 for Michigan as well. So it's not the first time that they've had quite a few players at the combine.
Okay. All right, Jeremy.
Will the Lions pick one? Let's see. At the back half of the second round, the first one that'll come up that might be available is Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle. He is more of a DT2, which is actually what the Lions need since they have Lee McNeil on the roster still. So he's a possibility, but I believe it or not, even though they didn't beat Michigan, I kind of like the tweener defensive end / D tackle Michael Hall Jr. a little bit more because he has the violent hand pop that translates to the NFL. After that, your next one that might come up is towards the back end of the third round, which is Mike Sanderstill. That kid would be a great fit at 6'1". Supposedly ran a 4.40 last spring, and they project he may even run as fast as a 4.2. I'll believe that when I see it. 4.4 is nice for that height. I'm not going to be mad about above average speed in the NFL. Then after that, you got Zach Zenner, Drake Nugent, and all those guys. Zenner's only going to fall because he broke his leg. If he wouldn't have broke his leg, he'd have been one of the top guards in this draft.
Fair enough. Okay, George, you got the last word on it.
Well, first of all, I think it's a great sign for the program. University of Michigan football was obviously king this year in the last 2-3 years, and just tremendous run by Coach Jim Harbaugh and the boys. Obviously, the Lions are not going to be taking, J.J. McCarthy, nor will they take, the running back Blake Corum, whose last projection I saw is way up and number 132 overall. But, his size is against him. He's small, but I'm really happy for Michigan. Okay, I'm happy that this many players, this much talent, if you will, is up for grabs. I sure would hope that the Lions would give a good look to several of these players, like Jeremy mentioned, Chris Jenkins, the defensive lineman. I don't know about Roman Wilson. He's about 79 overall. I don't think the Lions would grab him at wide receiver. But there are a lot of other names that we just talked about that are out there. So I'm looking forward to them grabbing. But again, it's going to be dependent upon the magician, Brad Holmes, and what Brad Holmes is looking for at that time, and what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell see as filling the best needs at that particular time. So maybe it'll be a Michigan player. I hope they get at least one.
I do too. I mean, remember, the Michigan Wolverines are the all-time winningest program in college football history.
Yeah.
Coming off a national championship. Nothing wrong with trying to get talent in your own backyard, and Ann Arbor is as close as it gets. How has Aiden Hutchinson worked out? I'd say he's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Jaguars'
sure.
biggest mistake.
Everybody had an opportunity to talk about this one. Travis, I get that?
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. All right, well, let's talk about Richard Sherman, arrested on suspicion of DUI. Should Amazon Prime retain his services, knowing that you got a guy who obviously has a drinking situation talking to an audience, albeit he's not in the play-by-play booth, but he's still on the crew? All right, we'll go ahead and start with Jeremy on this one.
Talk about a black eye to a national media outlet now.
Right.
They are now a national media outlet. They have the only game on Thursday night being aired for a minimum of the first 4. Is it 5 weeks before they do a second Thursday night game now?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, no, you can't have him on the air. If he gets convicted, no, arrested on the suspicion of, is because he refused to take the breathalyzer.
Right.
It's automatically going to jail no matter what state you're in anymore. And a lot of states have that new super drunk law. It's not 1.0 is a DUI. It's 0.08, not 0.10. So at 0.08 is when you're considered inebriated enough that you're driving under the fluid. So you get over 0.16, you're in trouble. It's called a super drunk, and it's a massive fine.
Okay. That's good. All right, Candy?
Sherman in 2022 pleaded guilty in Seattle to 2 misdemeanor charges stemming from a drunken driving and domestic disturbance the year before. He also admitted to a criminal infraction of speeding on a roadway construction zone. And you want this to be the face of your media coverage for your NFL? No. I'm sorry. There are so many other people out there that would like that job. That should not be the face of your media coverage. I'm sorry. Criminal activity, whether it's drunk driving, domestic violence, none of that should be part of your coverage from in the media. Media should be covering those events. And unfortunately, we hear way too much of that. So I think in order to really try, I mean, you've got to deter those people. And how can you deter them? You can't promote them because that's not deterring them. Telling them, oh, it's fine if you did that because now, let's give you this job and let's give you this job, and you continue to do these things. That's not deterring them. I'm sorry. No place on the media. I don't care any media. It doesn't have to be just NFL or any of that. Those kind of things, no. Not if you're.
Well, the reality is he's a repeat offender, period.
Exactly.
Not the first time. Obviously, now we're finding out he's done it multiple times. Travis? Hello, Joshua Bernstein. Good to have you back on. Go Panthers, a local Panthers fan. And let's go. That's what we're going to do, Josh. Thanks for being on. All right, Travis, pick it up.
This one's an interesting one. Because, the first thing, he originally refused the breathalyzer test, but then the arrest warrant stated that he actually agreed to the voluntary test. So then that was weird, and I'm not really sure what to make of that piece, because again, in the court documents it says that he agreed to the voluntary test, but then that was the original thought process behind the arrest. That's a little bit confusing in and of itself. But to Candy's point, he's had previous issues as far as drunk driving and things of that nature, so you have to be sensitive to it. But also, again, the reason I say it's interesting because this is still the NFL, and I know we're not going to joke about drunk driving and things of that nature, but this is the NFL. Can we keep it 100? We're talking about a league full of abusers, the league with multiple guys who are confirmed abusers. We're talking multiple guys who's had drinking incidents. We've had guys who literally killed people driving on the street. And I know the NFL obviously would want to distance themselves from that, but just to keep it 100, if you're going to have somebody represent the league, you're probably going to have somebody represent if you're going to represent the league, represent the league. Represent the real league. This is really what the league is, right? This is truly what the league is. Not what we want them to be, not what we're feigning to be, not what we're pretending to be. This is actually who we are. Cool. Then you have this guy who had 2 misdemeanor DUIs beforehand, and it's the ugly underbelly of who the NFL is, and it stinks because people are imperfect. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to have problems, issues, demons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have to figure out a way to grow over that, to live over that, et cetera. But at the end of the day, yeah, he's a former football player who's acting like a former football player. And I don't know how to correlate that, but if you just say, hey, don't take them off Amazon forever, and that don't feel right either. None of it feels right, but this is truly who the NFL is, so let's embrace that piece. I don't know.
Okay, let's go to the chat room. Daniel Leonard says, I don't think something like that where no one was injured should affect his job. I don't know. I struggle with DUI. I really do. George, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, they said bail at such a low amount, 5,000. I don't know. Maybe that's what it typically is in Washington, the state of Washington. But no, he's had several chances. Now, I would be interested in knowing, which we won't know, obviously, unless it really comes out in the hearing or something, what the agreement was between he and Amazon. And of course, the NFL's involved as well, as far as if this ever happens again, ... We don't know that because, like Candy pointed out, he's a multiple offender. And this is something that I'm sure when contract talks were talked about with Amazon Prime and Thursday Night Football coverage, they went over, or they should have at least, if they were doing due process, they should have talked to him about that and got his assurance that this wouldn't happen again. Now, you could pick the other side and say, well, geez, can he get another chance? Well, another chance, to me, is not what you're trying to showcase here, in the sense that it's an illegal thing that happened. If proven guilty, drinking and driving is not good. Jeremy pointed out the barometer that we go by as far as intoxication and that. So I really think that if he doesn't get taken off completely, that he should face a suspension from the NFL and Amazon Prime in the very least. My point is that I don't think I would ban him forever, but I certainly would have him deal with some sort of punishment.
All right.
Wait, Scott, I'd like to expand upon. Back in March of 2022, he received a 90-day suspended sentence with 2 years of monitored supervision. He is still within those 2 years, so this could create a whole nother separate legal issue for Sherman, besides how we feel whether he should be on Amazon or not. But just so that you're all aware of that he could receive separate legal issues because of this as well.
Well, with that said, Candy, why don't you put Big Dan Davis's comments up, and I'll let you respond to it, and anybody else can as well.
He's a multiple offender, and I think he meant no way they allow Sherman to keep his job, in my opinion.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah. Dan, it's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to debate that, Dan. I'm with you there. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, the Amazon is not owned by the NFL. Amazon owns the network that the NFL is shown on. So to correlate that with NFL players is a totally separate entity.
Right.
This is about a separate job where he's a commentator in the face that's shown pre-show, halftime, and post-game, just like Ryan Fitzmagic.
Right.
Okay.
So with him being on that, if he gets convicted, he will be convicted because he violated his probation.
Okay.
That's the whole thing there. That whole 2 years thing is still going on. It's not March yet.
Right.
It's not March yet. So therefore, in that 2 years of supervision that he's supposed to stay clean and sober, he didn't do it. Now, what he did agree to was the physical sobriety tests, and he failed those, and they asked him to take the breathalyzer, and he goes, no. That's why he was arrested.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, you know what? Now that you've gone that far, Jeremy, you get to read Dan's comments again if he gets convicted. All right, go ahead.
If he gets convicted and does time or has a fine and he's paid a debt to society, no reason for anyone to lose their job over stuff that's not work related. It's called a code of conduct. Conduct unbecoming the shield is what they used to get rid of Ray Rice, correct?
Oh, yeah.
He never got back after his year suspension. He never came back. He was blackballed. Ricky Williams, when it came out that he smoked pot, and he said he wanted to come back, did he get a job? Nope, because it wasn't legal yet then, right?
No,
there is a precedent where this has been set.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm closer to that situation. Ricky Williams could have come back with the Dolphins if he wanted to play. He just didn't want to get beat up under Dave Wanstead and getting killed. I was actually covering the team. I know where you're coming from. You're on target, but I was actually down here. So I'm not sure I could really totally go with Ricky Williams. The Dolphins would have signed him all day long, but Ricky Williams didn't want to look like Earl Campbell. But continue on, Jeremy. You're on a good roll, but I wanted to make sure
I'm just saying there is precedence where people have had substance abuse and domestic violence things where they did not get to come back to the NFL. There is some that have came back because they lessened, because they realized they were too strict in the beginning because everybody complained about it. But at the same time, there is a precedence where people don't get to come back after stuff like this.
Sure.
And those are players
being there.
But those are players in the league, and to your original point that you made, this is Amazon, who is a separate entity, and they're just talking about their individual employees. So if we're going to look at them like an individual private corporation, just like we all work, we all have jobs, we all work for a company, a station, a network, whatever, a warehouse, whatever we do on our normal 9 to 5, 80 hours every 2 weeks, whatever it is. We all have jobs. Whoever you are listening to this, you have a job working at a corporate office or whatever you do for your regular living. And if you do something that is big enough, that is public enough, that is widely known enough, that your company is now on the news, or the association with your company, fill in the blank name of your company that you work, that pays your paychecks, you may get a phone call into HR the next day, even though you're not doing this on your job. because that embarrassment to the company may make them feel like they need to, sniff it. Like, and unfortunately, that's just the realistic part of what it is to work for a private company.
Okay, I mean, listen, we can spend an entire show on this thing all day long, and I don't mind spending a lot of time. Go ahead, Candy.
I was gonna say, to someone's point, just because he didn't hurt anybody, he should be okay. Now wait a minute. No, because then you're saying this behavior is okay, and the only time it's not okay is if you injure somebody else. That no. If he's a multiple offender and this is an offense that he can get arrested for, he should be arrested. It doesn't matter whether he hurt somebody or not, because I'll be honest with you. I know a person whose parent was killed by a 5-time repeat drunk driver offender. And I'm sorry, that person should not be out and shouldn't be able to be driving. So we've got to do something, because you don't want to just let it go until they do something or hurt somebody or kill somebody. There's got to be consequences, because you are breaking the law. And until we respect the law, what kind of society do we have?
And plus, there is a zero substance abuse policy with Amazon for their regular employees. You would think they would have the same thing for their network employees.
Well,
That's right. Yeah.
All I can say is, they're going to take this thing very seriously. And if they haven't had anything in place for this particular thing, because the NFL is relatively new, they'll probably put something in there. Great topic. I know we could spend all show on it if we want, but I certainly wanted to address it heavily. And I appreciate the input from all you folks on the crew, as well as the input in the chat room. All right, well, we're going to take this bad boy to Vegas, where Raiders GM Tom Telesco says Davante Adams will not be traded. Can you blame him, George Eichhorn?
No, I can't blame him. He's a good ball player, Davante Adams. I mean, you hear a lot of things in the offseason, and a lot of players, and a lot of analysis is done on a lot of players. And I really, like I said, I've always liked him as a player. I think he should stay. I really do. But, everybody looks at different things during this time of year. We all know that. There's contracts that are expiring. There's coaching staffs that are changed. There's unfortunately, plus we have in Indianapolis, of course, to talk about that a little bit later, but the combine and things like that. So, no, I don't know. I guess, you can make a case either way, but I like the guy.
Yeah. What about you, Travis?
I mean, he'd be dumb to trade him. Like, let's be honest. Like, I don't know what would you even expect to get for him. He may not be happy, because we know he came there to play with Carr, and now he ended up being stuck behind a young quarterback who has struggled to get him the ball frequently, at least accurately. They end up winning games in an ugly way, and he's obviously struggling to getting the ball, and you can sometimes see that frustration even when they were winning games. So from his perspective, I fully understand why he might not want to be there. But from the GM's perspective, why would you want to make that trade with the wide receiver market being what it is? Like, with the high price of the wide receiver market, the return that he would get as a first year GM and the lack of respect he'd probably get as a first year GM would not be there. So yeah, I'm going to keep the best player on my team. That's basically what he just said. Cool. Next story.
Okay, well, we'll get to that next story in a minute, but Antonio Pierce, he went out there and endorsed Antonio Pierce. So with that said, endorsing Antonio Pierce, he wants to stay there to see, because they have a feeling that the culture will change. So while Jeremy's nodding his head, you can nod your head and talk at the same time and provide your input at the same time. Thank you, sir.
Why are you going to get rid of a top 10 wide receiver talent when there's only one guy you could possibly replace him with who will end up costing you more than the top 10 player you're getting rid of, in Mike Evans?
Right.
So because Mike Evans wants a bag. That's why he's not going to accept a tag. He's going to ask to get out of Tampa Bay because he took less to keep Tom Brady there, saw Chris Godwin get paid, and he was waiting to get paid. When Chris Godwin, if you actually look at his numbers, when Mike Evans is not on the field, Chris Godwin is not the guy that deserved the bag. Mike Evans is.
Okay, fair enough. Candy?
Any player on any team can be traded at any time. Let's face it, who would have thought that Aaron Rodgers, the MVP quarterback, was going to get traded? Okay, Jeremy, I get it. But I'm just saying there isn't a player in the league that couldn't be traded. Like, yes, I realize the Raiders, they would need to get a haul for him. But it could be done. Like, if you had enough, let's face it, they're talking. One of the teams that was talking about it is the Jets. The Jets do have a number of talented players that they could trade. Now, would they be smart to trade? No. Let's face it. Devontae Adams is near and dear to my heart because he played for the Packers and he did well. He played well. Him and Rodgers played well together as a team. Sometimes when you have those duos of teams of player, quarterback, and receivers that just work well, I can understand where he might want to. But remember, Devontae Adams grew up a Raiders fan. He grew up watching that team and wanting to be on that team. Now, I don't know that they'll necessarily go and say, hey, Devontae, do you want to be traded and who do you want to be traded to? That's not the business that they're in. But the GM has to make the best move for his club, whether he thinks that is trading him or not. And I think there is never any player, or very rarely, is there a player that is off limits. Now, I would probably say Patrick Mahomes is off limits, but I'm just saying, a couple years ago, I would not have thought Matthew Stafford was tradable. But look what happened. Look at all these. So I'm going to say there's very, very, very few players that are off limits.
Yeah.
Everybody have their say in it.
And I agree, Candy. You hit it right, dead spot on. Yep. Very few that are not, or as they say, untouchables. Very few.
I know those rebuttals, Jeremy and Travis both want.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Travis hasn't given a weight in, but I'm going to give you the reason why they won't trade him this year. Because unless somebody pays his $40 million dead cap in full, they can't afford to trade him. His salary is only $25 million this year. It jumps to $44.1 next year, and it's only a $15 million dead cap. So it'll save him $28 million to wait a season. That's why he won't go anywhere.
Okay, there you go.
That was exactly what I was about to say, Jeremy. Perfect timing. Great minds think alike. The only reason that anybody's going to look into trading for him would then be because they would have an out after this season. So it wouldn't make sense. So that, like someone like the Jets, who were going all in on one season and then knowing whatever happens with Rodgers, we'll kind of just see from that point on, because you can cut him and have an actual cap savings. But outside of that, so all of that added in just to say, no one who's going to give them, the Raiders, what they want in that trade, knowing that you might be off that risk literally the next season.
I think the only way you can logically put this subject to bed anyways, let's just see who's under center next year for the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You really do. I mean, he's not going anywhere anyways. He's already stated he wants to be there anyways.
Yeah.
And with all due respect, when you endorse your head coach, just find him a quarterback to throw him the football. All right. There's a question from Big Dan Davis. I want to know who wants to answer this, because that way we have other things to get to. So go ahead and read it, George, and see if you want to answer this question.
Big Dan, Pistons question for you guys. What were your thoughts on the chop block on Asler Thompson that was an egregious no call? What happened in front of the ref? How come the ref didn't call that? Well, the referee apologized. James Williams is the crew chief, and I think he's going to be having a few words with Joe Dumars and maybe even the commissioner Silver. I mean, it was obvious foul, okay? And the Pistons have a right to be upset about it. Monty Williams is going to get fined. He's going to get fined for what he said afterwards about the officiating, and he knows that. But the Pistons had a legitimate gripe. They had a legitimate foul that was missed in the Orlando loss, too. So, I mean, here you're talking about one of the dreads of the NBA. I hate to say it, the Pistons. And here it's happening right there in New York City, the home of the NBA, if you will, Madison Square Garden. But this being said, this isn't the first time we've seen this. You guys probably know this, and we're not going to get too far into this, but a lot of the NBA veteran referees are long gone. They're retired. They couldn't stand it anymore. So you get a lot of new, younger officials in there. I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying they don't have the experience like the other teams. But good point, Big Dan. But yeah, they talked to James Williams, the chief of the crew, and he did say that they missed that call. It should have been a foul.
Yeah, and it's a bad look on the NBA when this continues to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, it
as
is.
If the league doesn't have enough troubles, why don't we just add this one to it? All right, next topic we go. Sean McDermott says the Bills will win a Super Bowl, just a matter of time. Okay, well, I know there's a song called Just a Matter of Time, but will they be singing it in Buffalo, Jeremy Ballrick?
Shouldn't they be singing the song, Give Me Just a Little More Time? Because time is running out on Josh Allen being a great quarterback.
Right.
His interceptions keep going up every year. His decision-making is getting worse and worse. Yes, can he pour it on and have 5 great games in a row to seal a division? Absolutely. Can the defense actually show up and play 17 games straight? We've seen they can't, because everybody is getting long in the tooth and they're starting to get hurt and they're starting to have problems, and their depth is showing is not as strong as everybody thought it was. Because that defense, when those guys are hurt, like Matt Milano, an all-pro linebacker, he goes out of that lineup, it's a different lineup. Von Miller gets hurt, different lineup. Ed Oliver gets hurt. That interior defense goes away like melted butter. There's all these things that happen, and when it all happens in one season, it hinders them.
Okay. Travis?
This is interesting because this is his job, or in essence, he's supposed to say this. Like, what else he's going to say? They're never going to win a Super Bowl. He can't really come out and say that. So it's a lot. They're a lot like the Indianapolis Colts in very many ways during the Tom Brady era. Like, you could win a Super Bowl, and you can be a really good team, a really solid team, but you just couldn't get past that freaking mutant on the other sideline in Tom Brady, and in this case in Pat Mahomes. And that's really been the issue with this team, is like, when you're a good team, a really good, solid, above average team who just has a problem getting past this great team. And as long as that man is on that other sideline with that coach that loves his chicken nuggets, then we're gonna have an issue here. And so the Colts ended up winning a few championships in Manning's time. I mean, really, I'm sorry, one championship in Manning's time, and that was like literally one. So the Bills might win a Super Bowl in however many years. I can't say he's going to be the coach when it happens.
Right. That's a great point, and I'll let George Eichhorn pick it up. That's a great point, Travis.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's 28 years old, Josh Allen. But let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row the Bills won before they ran into the buzzsaw, otherwise known as Kansas City. But I know Jeremy brings up a good point. He does throw too many interceptions. There are only a couple of games. In fact, both playoff games, he did not have an interception in. But that being said, like you said, Smoking Jeremy, his totals have gone up for the interception. The interception ratio is too high. I know it's like, year after year, people get excited, and especially passionate fans that want Buffalo to win. But year after year, there's been this disappointment, and that goes along with the frustration when Jim Kelly was quarterback. How many Super Bowls did they lose? 3 in a row, was it?
All right.
And, but this is a new era. Obviously, it's a new era. They're building a new stadium there. And But it's just not him. You got to surround him with the right cast. You got to have more depth, as Jeremy mentioned, on the line. And yeah, I think he's a good quarterback, but he is not in that upper echelon yet. And until they can get over that hump, like you guys were alluding to, and beating the Chiefs and beating teams like that, I mean, that's going to be the telltale sign. But at 27, I said 28, 27 years old, he actually is. I still think there's a lot of good football left in him, but you got to surround him with the right cast. You got to have more depth on that team.
Candy?
The Buffalo Bills are one of 12 NFL teams that have never raised the Lombardi Trophy. They're also projected next year to be $41.3 million over the salary cap. So what are they going to do with that? So how are they going to compete if they've got to get rid of some of that salary cap? And here's what I'm going to say. They keep running into Pat Mahomes. In the NFL, you have a short life if you can't get all the way. And if you keep running into that buzzsaw and running into that buzzsaw, your time in Buffalo will be short-lived as well. Because let's face it, all the coaches, that's what their ultimate goal is to get the Super Bowl champion. And I don't think in today's day and age that anyone is safe for a long period of time if you don't get to that level. And at least once, and I don't know that they can beat Kansas City, especially if they're over the salary. Let's face it, they're how much over right now? And is everybody going to restructure? No, you're going to lose some of your players. And if you don't build from within and be a good club to build from what you can draft and develop, you're not going to get there. Sorry.
All right, two interesting points come out of everything you've said. Number one, Travis Holmes. I'm not sure Sean McDermott will be there either when they win the Super Bowl. Obviously, he's had a boatload of talent around him, right? And again, they haven't even made it to a Super Bowl game. Marv Levy is not walking through that building, folks. He's not. All right. Well, no, now we're not talking about Jim Mora, pal. We're talking Marv Levy, who I had a chance to actually meet at the Super Bowl, Jeremy, and what a class guy. When I told him about the wing T offense, I can't remember it. Says I can't believe anybody remembers the wing T offense, which he used so nice. But I think he coached for Kansas City too before he got the Buffalo gig. So, and he's a legend in the CFL. So I'm with you, Travis. I don't know if Sean McDermott's going to be there. And George brings up an interesting point. You have a new stadium, right? So obviously we know that not that Buffalo will have a problem putting fans in their stadium because they're a great football town, but again, the honeymoon period is what you have. So you have to make sure that as the window begins to close, and we know that Kansas City was their roadblock, any more or less that when the Chicago Bulls won their championships, Charles Barkley and the Suns didn't win one, and Utah Jazz didn't. Window was closing. So Buffalo and Sean McDermott, you need to get there, and you need to get there pretty soon.
And it's not going to get easier. The problem is it's going to get like you all said, the salary cap is where it is, and it's not only, but it's nearly primarily because of the contract that Josh Allen has now. And now that he's off that rookie contract, this thing's going to get worse and worse and worse as he gets farther and farther into this 6-year deal. So it's harder to get the guys around you when you have to only and almost solely depend on the draft. They're in a rough spot, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all the way. Which, you know what, Travis, you segue into a nice point. So we'll talk about the good or the bad. There is a report that potential number one pick Caleb Williams won't throw at the NFL Combine, and LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels doesn't plan to work out. Both quarterbacks will work to throw at their respective pro days, and I know Drake May is another one that won't over at this as well. Jeremy, you started off with this, so let's get your perspective whether this is good and bad for all three of these quarterbacks.
Well, it's being suggested by their agents to not only not throw, because you're talking about unknown wide receivers from multiple colleges where you're not sure of how good their hands are if you're placing an accurate ball in their hands. He's also talking about the cognitive tests that hindered CJ Stroud to be the number 2 pick when he should have been the number 1 by the way he played. So they're not going to do the cognitive test. They're just going to do the physical attribute tests while they're there. They're going to do the 40 time. They're going to do their broad jump. They're going to do their weightlifting, all that stuff. When it comes time for the drills, they're out. And I agree with it because they are the top 3 quarterbacks, hands down, if you ask any draft pundit out there. I'm not saying they're going to be great quarterbacks in the NFL. They just are the top 3 guys with nothing to prove. And all that could happen is if something goes wrong, they'll fall. So if they go back to the wide receivers they're used to, they'll be playing with the guys they've thrown to all season. And those guys, he knows their routes, he knows their tendencies, where to put the ball, where it makes it easier for them to catch it, which will make them look better. At the same time, not only is Jaden Daniels of LSU skipping, but Malik Neighbors has decided to not do the combine altogether, the wide receiver that he played with. And then you got Cooper DeJean, who suffered an injury practicing for the bowl game at the end of the season in January. So he's not going to be there either. He's going to wait till his pro day so he can fully heal his soft tissue injury.
Makes sense. But the one thing I'll say about the combine, in addition to what you talked about, the biggest thing about the combine, it gives all general managers and coaches an opportunity to do a one-on-one interview with each of these players as well. And that's the one thing that doesn't tend to get mentioned a lot because we're all wondering what they can do in shorts, as Dan Campbell would put it. Let's put
the pajama Olympics.
Right, exactly. So let's go back to Big Dan Davis. And Jeremy, I'll let you comment on this one. I think Buffalo should get Josh Allen a better. You go ahead, read it, and comment.
He says, I think Buffalo should get Josh Allen a better running game to take some of the pressure off of him. He looks like he's trying to do too much at times and gets easily flustered. Believe it or not, in the beginning, they were running the ball more with the running backs, and Josh Allen wasn't running, and he was struggling more. Once he started running and doing what he was comfortable with, his quarterback play got better because he does better with off-scripted throws than he does sitting in the pocket. He looked more frustrated to me sitting in the pocket at the beginning of the season, which is where he had about 60% of his interceptions for the season as well.
All right, I want to point out a few other company things. First of all, our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. On Twitter and X, you can reach us at Tribune South. Candy Adeline is normally behind the scenes, but instead she's in front of the microphone, which leads us to our next segue that I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, Old School Media versus New School Media. It's available on Kindle and Amazon, and I'm looking to get it in more places. So if you're interested in learning about our industry from inside and out, that's a great read for everybody involved. All right, with that said, George Eichhorn, the question, good or bad? Let's talk about these 3 quarterbacks and then some.
Well, I'm more of a traditional guy, as you guys know. So I like it better when they're all there, including these quarterbacks that are not going to be there. It's just a sign of the times, though. Now, we see it in the bowl games, and the kids are skipping bowl games now because they don't want to hurt their standing going into the NFL draft or actually going into the combine before the draft. And we see a lot of teams with their starless bowl games in college football. But again, I understand why they're doing it, and they're trying to make sure that Jeremy's point, they're passing to the right guys they're familiar with in their own schools. They're having a pro day. Lee Williams and Jaden Daniels, and I think Michael Penix Jr. possibly might also be considering it and not being part of the actual camp in Indianapolis. But I think it's still very good to have you there. Anybody that's trying to get the better choice of where he's going to play or be drafted by somebody. But again, I can see both points on this one. I really can. But there'll be a lot of other opportunities to judge any of these players. And we know that Williams and Daniels will go very high, of course, top 2 quarterbacks that'll come off the board.
Yeah, I think quarterbacks that know they're going to get drafted high, why would you want to go ahead and jeopardize a top 3 or 4 rating, anyways? Especially when a lot of people there's another risk involved there.
Yeah,
With that said,
that's true.
with that said, I'll turn over to Travis.
I mean, you guys have already made the points. Yeah. I mean, if you're not a mid-round guy, if you're not a lower round guy, or if you're not someone at maybe at the bottom of the first round who thinks this draft process might catapult you up into that top half, into the top 10 of the draft, then yeah, we got to treat this like a business. And then unfortunately, because these guys are $1 million businesses, they are full corporate offices walking around college campuses, frankly. And you all kind of already said it. If you're treating this like a business, if there's anything that might damage your stock, whether that's measurables, health, the way you interview, otherwise, you don't do the combine. And that's just point blank period. And to your point earlier, Scott, hey, this is a great opportunity for GMs and front offices to talk to all these guys at the same time, etc. But a lot of these guys, maybe they're not good at interviewing. Maybe they know that they're not good at tape review, and they don't want to have those conversations. So you limit the amount of times you're going to have those conversations at your pro day, and you'll limit the amount of times you're going to the amount of teams you're going to talk to in that process. Because very many teams will draft a guy with never even talking to them because they want to keep other teams off them also. They don't want to hint at that interest so they can get them in the second round, or whatever it may be. So if you're looking at it like a business, it stinks, because it stinks if you are a traditionalist, and I fully understand it, George. It's just, hey, that's the wave of the NIL is entering and exiting college and entering the NFL. That's unfortunately what this is.
I
Okay,
get it.
Candy, you got last word on this.
Okay, guys. He's not the only Heisman winner that obviously that isn't doing it. Jaden Daniels and himself. But some of the more highly touted quarterbacks who have not thrown at the combine include, but are not limited to, Andrew Luck, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Robert Griffin III, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, and Bryce Young. So this is not an NIL thing. This is, I know I'm top quarterback in the top echelon of the quarterbacks. I don't need to prove more. Like you said, Travis, those mid-tier quarterbacks need to prove it more. And so they're the ones that are going to have the shot. He just doesn't feel that he needs to. And I get it. But to George's point, this isn't something that's just brand new. Matthew Stafford didn't graduate last year. He's been in the league for a long time. So it's not a new thing. It's just a thing that certain people or certain quarterbacks or certain level of competitors don't feel they need to showcase, because they've already been showcased. Everybody already knows he's top.
Well, everybody have an opportunity to chime in on this?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, let's go to our parting shots. I'm going to actually lead off with this because Jeremy kind of alluded to it in a very indirect way. General Manager Jason Licht wants to ensure Mike Evans is a buck for life. Well, now that you believe that, Jason, sign him and pay him if you want to do that. Walk the walk and talk the talk, or talk the talk and walk the walk. Because when other players are getting raises, like Chris Godwin and other players, that Mike Evans' attitude is, it's my turn, period. Jason, you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. All right. Travis, parting shots.
The NFL has some serious CBA negotiations to try to figure out in that 2023. 2020. Goodness gracious, 2030 negotiations, that those upcoming negotiations that they have for the new CBA, because honestly, they just screwed the pooch so bad with this last negotiation, and it's just demolished. It's killed the entire running back market. When you're looking at all the different running backs that are available currently that weren't tagged and that likely won't get those big contracts, it's pretty terrible. And then when you look at the NFL draft, when you're looking at like even the top guys in this upcoming draft, it doesn't seem like you're even going to have one first round, like true first round running back. Even so you're talking, these are going to be a lot of teams just loading up on second, third, fourth round running back guys. in the draft, so they're not getting paid. And you have most of the free agent guys like Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, etc., aren't going to be paid big money. They're probably going to get, low tier tight end money by the time everything's said and done. The running back market has truly been devalued to the point where they're basically a step above special teamers, and it's kind of wild that it's become that. So it's just I'm curious to see how that's going to be figured out, negotiated. What's going to take place with them having their own, NFL, PA. I don't know, but they got some work to do because people are, coming out of college aren't going to want to play running back anymore.
Okay, interesting point. All right, Jeremy, what do you got?
The guy that has the most to prove in this is the guy that has been the most injured and right now considered a day 2 pick. That's Michael Penix. He has 2 strikes against him, an injury list of a laundry list of injuries, and then he's also a left-handed quarterback, which has never fared well in the NFL except for a couple here and there. So he has to prove that he's worth for a team to invest in a right tackle that's as good as a left tackle to protect his blind side.
Okay, I like it. All right, George Eichhorn.
Well, the casualty list includes somebody that I didn't expect, but I understand why. He did not play as much in the second half of the season. I'm talking about safety Tracy Walker of the Detroit Lions. This is a guy that was always open to talking to the media. In fact, a couple of years ago, the Pro Football Writers Detroit chapter and the Detroit Sports Media Association jointly gave Walker the Good Guy Award, which is the equivalent of being media friendly. And Tracy Walker really did a terrific job while he was in Detroit in answering questions and sticking around long in the locker room, on the practice field. So it's sad to me to see somebody go, but we all know, like it was stated here during the show several times, it is a big business. And certainly I wish Walker the best of luck. And I know the media members that have covered the team over the past several years, they also wish him the best of luck, I'm sure. So thanks for all the great interviews you gave us and insight, and good luck in your next career step, Tracy.
Okay, we have a hockey update, and then we're going to turn over to Candy Ebling for her parting shots. Big Dan Davis gave it to us. Wow, the
Red Wings honorable.
Go ahead.
Currently winning 7-3 over Washington with 7 minutes left in the game. Let's go Red Wings. And I heard, can we get an update from somebody in Florida about the Panthers for Joshua Bernstein, who's saying the Panthers are having a heck of a game as well?
Well, Candy will look it up, and then she'll give us her parting shot. Yep, we are in the South Florida market. We'll give Josh that update. We appreciate his continuous participation in the show. What do you got, Candy?
I'm getting there. They are losing 2-1 right now in the third.
To the Buffalo Sabres.
Ooh.
Buffalo Sabres, yep.
No, I think they're winning, Candy, 2-1.
I get back. They're 2-1. Sorry.
The Panthers are winning 2-1, according to my screen.
Fortune
You're
split
correct.
that quickly.
Okay, well, there you go. Panthers 2, Sabres 1. Candy, parting shots.
So my parting shot is kudos to the Packers and Rashawn Gary. You restructured your contract. You're 26 years old. You made 44 tackles and 9 sacks, 22 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles in 17 games last season. Your salary cap hit was $15.927 million, the 6th most on the team. So the Packers entered Monday some $2.34 million below the salary cap. Now, with restructuring his contract, they clear an extra $4.781 million. So what I'm going to say is kudos to signing and restructuring the right players' contracts so you have money to dole out to others. And kudos to Rashawn Gary for taking it, because let's face it, if you have players that you think are good in your organization and you want them to continue, you might have to take hits and you might have to, like Tom Brady restructured his contract. Good for them. Good for the Packers and good for Rashawn Gary.
Well, we can tell Candy's promoting the brand because the guy by the name of Shane. Go ahead and put those comments up there.
Don't put them up. Don't put them up.
Don't do it.
Don't put
Don't
them
do
up.
it. Don't do it.
Well, unless somebody's making this up.
Dylan Larkin just scored
for the Red Wings, 8-3 Detroit.
Oh, okay.
I'll explain why you don't put those up after the show.
It doesn't matter. Hey, that's okay with me. Nevertheless, Candy, why don't you take us home?
So, if you'd like, the audio version of this can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please visit our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can see the writings of Scott Morganroth, George Eichhorn, Jeremy Ballrick, or you can find my pictures there as I take pictures. Obviously, we want you to go out and buy Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone. It's available on Amazon or Kindle. If you see in that right by George, there's a red subscribe button. If you see it, that means you haven't subscribed to us. And I'm going to ask you, why haven't you? You're missing out. You need to hit that red subscribe button. If you'd like to advertise, call Scott. Excuse me, 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. But if you like this show, please subscribe. Tell all your friends. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We have Inside the Pigskin. We have Sports Exchange, Pundits Pundit. We have Fire Up. Come listen to all of our shows. Okay, Scott, back to you.
Well done. All right. With that said, will everybody know how they can get a hold of them? We'll start it off with Jeremy.
Well, you can see my writings, as Candy mentioned, under the Motor City Tribune, which is under the southfloridatribune.com website. You can also find me on the southfloridatribune.com, normally on the Fire Up shows, but hey, Inside the Pigskin for now.
Right.
Good Lord, this guy's killing me.
I seem to be killing. I can tell you got you distracted. Go ahead.
You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, where I go live daily at 11 a.m. and also 3 nights a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30, where I cover the NFL on Wednesdays and the Lions on Mondays and Fridays. Whew. Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever seen you like that. I'm surprised your head didn't go. By the way, one comment that I can put up there is a Red Wings score. Dylan Larkin just scored for the Wings. It's 8-3. So
yeah.
So there you go. All right. Well, I've never seen Jeremy get choked up. Relax, Jeremy. You have a lot more work to do this week. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's fine. It just that one had me cracking up. I heard Travis start snickering and I lost it.
Well, good. If you start snickering and Travis is trying to get a hold of himself, why don't you let people know how they can get a hold of you?
You can find me on all the socials. Travis B. Holmes. Goodness. Yes, you can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars on bigcatcountry.com. Actually, take a look at the site. Put it as one of your favorites. Tomorrow morning we'll have a write up on all of our observations from Doug Peterson's combine interviews. He had 3 different interviews on today. You can also find me here every week, 8:30 p.m. wherever you get your podcast, Inside the Pigskin, and ever so often you also find me on the Sports Exchange on Wednesdays, or one of the other various shows talking about something football related, I'm sure. But yeah, you can hit me up on all the socials, Twitters, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Appreciate you having me, Scott.
Oh, you're welcome, Travis. You're a very valuable part of our team, as everybody is on this crew. The best part about this crew is very versatile. I mean, that will go wherever we need them. That brings me to George Eichhorn. Go ahead, George.
Well, on a sad note, and I know we mentioned it last week, we want to give our sympathy to the Ron Cameron family. Ron is a mentor to both Scott and myself over the years, having worked with him on his sports talk show at ABC owned and operated WXYZ. No funeral arrangements yet, but thanks, Ron, for for all you gave to the sports community in Detroit and assistance you gave to me and Scott. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can find my columns in the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune banner. And at the end of the column, you'll see a little link to this little book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Yes, Ron Cameron is in there. Scott Morgroth's in there, even myself, plus great people like Ernie Harwell, George Kell, Bud Lynch, and Van Patrick, legends in our Detroit sports media. And again, you can see me on 108 Stitches. Thank you for having me sit in tonight. I love this football show. And then I'll see you on Pundits Pundit and the Sports Exchange and Fire Up shows. And again, I re-echo what was said earlier. Subscribe, tell your friends about this show. These shows are good, solid, journalistic, sound shows. And please spread the word. Help us spread the word on it. Thank you.
You're welcome, George. And we're going to let Candy talk about the other things she does away from the South Florida Tribune. Go ahead, Candy.
Tuesday nights, Chicks and Salsa. Go check us out. It's 4 of us chicks talking sports most of the time. And tonight it was 3 of us. You just never know. Any 1, 2, 3, or 4 of us, but we talk sports. We talk a lot about women in sports. We talked about the female umpires. Tonight we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about storming the court and how that affects teams and players and safety of everybody. You know, I talked from my personal perspective because lately when I've been taking pictures for college basketball, I'm literally underneath the basket on the court. So this can be dangerous times, you know, and we were talking about how a photographer last year actually lost her life. One of the players came into her, she fell back, she hit her head on concrete, and died. So it is reality. So we talk about a lot of different things. We're trying to plan some good interviews coming up. So check us out on Chicks and Salsa. Plus, I always lead the Fire Up shows, typically Thursday nights and sometimes Sunday mornings. Just come check out our channel.
Well done, everybody. Well, just give everybody an idea. Tomorrow, Real and the Rare returns as Igor Garilovsky, and I will talk about his 2 books. And we'll also have the Sports Exchange. We have Pundits Pundit on Thursday. Our special guest will be James Tatum, so he'll be making his debut on Thursday. Any other updates, we'll let you know. But meanwhile, we want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. On behalf of Candy Ebling, George Eichhorn, Jeremy Bulrick, and Travis Holmes, my name is Scott Morgan. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you the next time. Everybody have a great week. Good night.